presidency has reaffirmed President Bola Tinubu's commitment to ending insecurity and terrorism across Nigeria. Special advisor Sunday Dare says Nigeria is blessed with a leader determined to promote religious peace and national unity, adding that the country's diversity should be a source of strength, not division. This comes as another presidential aide, Daniel Buala, dismissed genocide allegations against Christians, calling Nigeria's diplomatic response firm and rooted in truth. Speaking on Arise News, Buala clarified that insecurity affects all Nigerians regardless of faith. Meanwhile, former Chief of Army Staff General Abdulrahman Dambazao says insecurity in the north accounts for 70% of poverty in the region. At a media summit in Kebbi, Dambazao warned that bandits and insurgents now control some communities, collecting taxes and imposing laws. A planned meeting between President Tinubu and U.S. President Donald Trump will focus on counter-terrorism cooperation and correcting misconceptions about attacks in Nigeria. Well, we'll now have a conversation with the Executive Director of Civil Society Legislative Advocacy Center, CISLAC, Auwalu Rafsanjani, on the Presidency's diagnosis of the cause of insecurity in the North Central and how to address it. Thank you so much for joining us on Newsday.
Thank you very much, and good evening, Nigerians. So
do you agree with the presidency, that historical tensions, land grabbing, and others are the main causes of insecurity in North Central? And how can they tackle this since they've identified the issues?
Well, without dismissing the presidency claim, but I think they are more than that. And if you see in the last 2 decades, you can now ask yourself, if all these problems are there, what has government actually done to address this problem? Not lamentation. The truth is that, sadly, some public official created conditions for the escalation of this violence conflicts, not only in the North Central, but generally in various parts of the country. As you can see that, almost everywhere is facing one challenges. Every part of Nigeria is facing one challenges or the other. But the issue is that what has the public official done to minimize, de-escalate these problems? In my opinion, the ungoverned spaces, the absence of government in many communities created this condition. Just like you've seen, the former Chief of Army Staff had mentioned, some people are collecting taxes, criminal bandits are collecting taxes, imposing laws, and yet you have local government, you have state government, you have federal government. So where are the presence of government in those communities that some people, non-state actors, are now the one in charge? So ungoverned spaces and the pillar of the security to deal with these issues in a very decisive way without commercializing this situation has led us to where we are more. And beside that, also, you also know that the impunity in the system has exacerbated these problems. A lot of communities suffer injustice, suffer violence attack, brutal attack. Committee of inquiry will be set up by government. The report of that committee of inquiries will never be implemented. So this has given some people the lesson, the audacity to continue to, perpetuate atrocities against fellow Nigerians. So for me, we all know that beside these other, challenges of maybe Pamasadas, you also have, energetic young people that have been abandoned by the government in various parts of the country. So their energy is now channeled to negative thing. If they are not being engaged for political thuggery, they are involved in, either, political or religious thuggery, or used for, Yahoo and what have you, rather than using their productive energy for national development and progress and also peace building in the country. So public officials, some of them, especially the political elite in this country, have channeled the young people's energy to negativity. And that is why you see the continuation and the escalation of what we are seeing today. Because if there's justice, if people are also gainfully employed or they are provided with enabling environment to even do business, you do not have people that will be idle and then be used for all these violence atrocities. And if they commit that atrocities, if they say justice, I am telling you, somebody will not do that. But today, you go and commit these atrocities, one big politician will go and get them free from the police station or from even the court. We've seen it. Some people kill people, and some big men, they will just go, and then before you know, the matter is over. So such kind of injustice is also exacerbating people to take, respond, because the state has failed woefully to protect lives and properties of the people. Another dimension is that federal government has introduced a system of rewarding criminals or violence by what they are now doing, negotiating, whether allegedly negotiating with the bandits or even rehabilitating perpetrators of atrocities. Whereas the communities that suffer injustice, suffer violence attack, nobody is talking about them. But now we are rehabilitating people who claim to have repented when they have not repented anything. So you can see that the state is actually, in an unconscious way, helping to escalate this impunity of violence atrocities across not only in the North Central, but also other part of the country. So I think, government should up to the responsibility, admit the fact that there are shortcomings in some of its policy programs, and also communities that are supposed to have been also dilapidated, because some of the problems you have, if you have an effective and efficient traditional community system that we have, would have addressed some of this problem. For example, in the past, we know community leaders, traditional leaders had a way of, negotiating and settling, dispute before it, goes up. But today, because of the absence of governance, because of the absence of local government, effective local government governance administration system, virtually everyone is on his own. So the truth is that government must admit and make effort and not just be doing excuses, because the more you try to depend, the more you make these excuses, the more this problem is not going to be addressed. If anybody did something wrong, call it is wrong. If anybody does, or rather break the law, that person should face the consequences. But if you pamper the person or you protect him because he is your own or they are your own, then I can assure you that this injustice will continue to spread and it will get out of hand. And that's exactly what we are facing today. So there are a number of factors responsible for the problem you see in the North Central, like mentioned, from poverty to the ungoverned spaces to the pillar of security and intelligence gathering, because you have responsibility as a government to ensure that you gather, through what we call early warning and early response to some of these potential problems. But people will go to sleep, they will not do anything. And this accounted or accumulated the problems that we have at hand, and now government is running helter-skelter to deal with this matter overnight.
Yeah. And you have done such a good job at explaining the situation holistically, the cause, the effect, possible solutions. And I feel like this is a discussion that is had so many times concerning security issues. We know what the problems are. We know who the actors are or are not, what they are or are not doing. I want to pull on the thread of justice and shame, because obviously where there's no justice and where there's impunity, it's going to be a vicious cycle. So with a situation now where we have a United States president shining a light on a situation, albeit a little bit skewered, but he's still now discussing something that was not on the agenda for the US before. This element of shame that the foreign, because we don't like anybody talking about our business, leave us with our own dirty laundry. But now that it's being aired, it's being misconstrued, we now see that there's been some movement in certain parts of the security system. I don't know if this is coincidental. We hope either way, there's now some movement. Is it that we need to amplify the amount of international shame that is brought on the backs of us in order to get things moving in this country? Because obviously our security networks have failed. If we have to call on troops from the abroad to be coming to help us, obviously we failed. We spent all this money for no reason. We've lost all these lives. So is it actually a benefit to be shamed by the international audience in order for any kind of movement to happen?
So part of the thing that we do in civil society is to continue to raise issues around, corruption in the security sector. And we have been demanding, or rather advocating for security sector reforms in Nigeria. A situation whereby even from the recruitment, you ended up recruiting people who did not deserve to be in the security, either police, whether DSS, whether the army, is a major problem. When you commercialize issues like recruitment of the security personnel, you know the consequences, you know what is going to happen. So unfortunately, because of corruption in Nigeria, virtually everything from the recruitment to the promotion to everything has been practically commercialized. People who deserve to be promoted are not promoted. People who are not supposed to get certain level of position in the security sector, because of whatever sentiment, you promote them. And therefore, you do not expect professionalism to strive. You also kill the zeal and patriotism when you throw people to go to face hardened criminals with virtually no facilities, no equipment. It is a disaster. The Auditor General report, if you check the previous Auditor General report, shows that money has been allocated to buy arms and ammunition for police. Those arms and ammunition never delivered, and nobody asks question where that money is. Secondly, since during Jonathan, the kind of resources, the kind of money projected in the security sector, unbelievable. Till today, many of this money cannot be accounted for. You remember in England, some money that is meant to buy some arms were actually the court freezing those money. I remember Transparency International, TI UK, and CISLAC, we even issued a statement on the seizure of those money. And so many personal allowances that have been arrested some official with, nobody has been dealt with in such instances. So the demotivation of the personnel is also accounting to how people can put their lives, to face this terrorists, or this bandit or whatever criminals that you have in Nigeria. There's no way you can continue with this. Now, Nigeria is signatory to many international protocols and conventions. Yes, we are a sovereign country, but we are also committed to responsibility to protect. If some people are feeling that you are not protecting them, they cry out globally, you should not blame the people, because it is you who have failed to take the necessary action to make sure that everybody feels protected. You remember, at the level of Amnesty International and so many organizations documented the number of deaths in Nigeria. In the last 2 years, over 10,000 people died. Some organizations, they even recorded more than 10,000. What is the response from the state? Is virtually dismissing those things. But these are things that are happening. So the more you dismiss, the more you are actually provoking more people instead of taking steps to make sure that you save lives. And these killings is not necessarily about religion. It could be political killing. It could be, political killing, religious killing, ethnic killing, and other criminality that you see.
Land grabbing.
So even the land grabbing, the communal violence that we have in this country, people don't also remember that the number of communal violent clashes that we have in Nigeria had also consumed a lot of people's life. So the idea is not just to dismiss what is going on now, is to take necessary steps, not just because Trump said that you should do something. In my opinion, we do not need Trump to tell us that to be responsible and protect lives of Nigerians, because the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria is very clear that the primary duty of the government is to protect lives and properties of Nigerians. And if we are somehow failing to do that, then if somebody comes to talk, maybe perhaps somebody else has his own interests, not necessarily to help you to deal with those issues, but you do not need to be told to take the primary responsibility you take oath to do. So I think, whether regardless of Trump, threat, our leaders have a responsibility to ensure that we have a peaceful coexistence on the basis of justice and fairness in this country. And I don't think, we need any country to come and tell us to do what we're supposed to do. If they now reminded us to do what we're supposed to do, if it comes positively, fine. But I don't think we need to wait until when another country or somebody else on Twitter come to threaten you to take certain action. We should tackle corruption in the security sector. The procurement in the in the security sector need to be dealt with. I'm calling on Mr. President to ensure that corruption in the procurement is, corruption in the security sector procurement is addressed. Mr. President should ensure that, our security personnel are given the necessary incentives to be able to do the work, because they are putting their lives. Do you know how many security people we lost in this country? A lot of policemen have been killed, a lot of soldiers have been killed, and nobody is even looking at those. They are human beings too. Yeah. So we need to make sure that we protect everybody, whether you are in uniform or outside uniform. We need to make sure that we have a system that is just, that is fair, that can, really, protect everybody.
I
think, the last thing that I want to say is that we need to promote nationalism in this country. Many people have been disconnected with the fact that this country is the country they have, and that they need to protect its integrity and image. You can have problems with leaders, but to be insulting Nigeria, I don't agree with that. Nigeria is not the issue.
Thank you so much. We have run out of time, exhausted way over time. Thank you so much, Auwalu Rafsanjani, for joining us this afternoon.